What do you think?
Yeah!
That's a lot better. Choreograph is here, famous author, checked out some of your books, not bad, and curator here at the Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum. Good day, sir.
Roy, how are you doing today?
I am living the dream. This is my first Tank Fest, and I'm really excited. This is so cool.
We've got a lot in store for you. You're going to have a little bit of noise, a little bit of gravel flying around, some smoke, dirt, fire. It's going to be great.
And just a hint, folks, when you see us up on top of the stand here, Corey and I also put earmuffs on. That means it's probably going to get loud, if we remember that we have to do that.
That's right, unless we get surprised. We'll try our best to warn you ahead of time. So looks like we've got a few vehicles out here. A lot of these are vehicles from the Puget Sound Military Vehicle Collector Club. If you put that on a business card, it takes up a card and a half. As the first one, the one with the big star on it, is a WC-40. It's a Dodge Power Wagon, and it's from World War II.
So that would be the great-great-great-great-grandfather of my Dodge pickup truck.
That's right. That is, it's the first version of the Ram, I guess we say. Son, that red dot in the center was taken away, but this is early markings, and it's a Women's Air Force service pilot, a WASP truck.
And I think we have a rather gorgeous-looking WASP in the truck right now. Hello.
That's right.
Let's give them a big round of applause, bringing that beautiful truck out here.
It's HMMWV. That's an M998A1.
Okay, friends, there will be a test on all this later.
That's right, absolutely. You know, Roy, one of the interesting things about that is they're actually starting to get rid of Humvees. If you go on some of the government websites,
they're quite an interesting vehicle to drive as well, because they're large, but generally they only have space for like 4 people.
That's right, the rest is engine, and now with them being in Afghanistan, a lot of them have turbochargers in them too to make the engines perform better. This particular version is a 1990 Humvee, and it's owned by Bob Hookey. He lives down in Tacoma, and he was very happy to bring it up today and participate in Tank Fest Northwest.
Let's give Bob a big round of applause for bringing up that Humvee here. Thank you, sir. Now we're going from the large to the small. What the heck is this thing?
That's a mule. This is a Vietnam era vehicle. Actually, when they, those little quarter-ton Jeeps from World War II, one of the things they wanted was a recon car and a cargo vehicle. And they came up with this. It's even more basic than the Jeep. The mule, the official designation, and there will be a test later, is an M274A5. Everybody, of course, called it the mule. And this particular one is owned by Jeff High. He restored this one himself. And beyond recon and cargo, as you see on this vehicle, it's got a pretty burly recoilless rifle. So it can fight on its own if it needs to as well.
Interesting steering mechanism on that machine as well. Turns very tight, as you can see here.
It does. It's made to maneuver, and I think we'll see him later on in the show today at about 11 or 12:30. He's going to actually demo that. The steering mechanism is in a place that you can actually turn it around and position the gun as well. It becomes sort of a mobile gun platform as well as a cargo and recon vehicle.
And I have to be honest, it looks like an absolute blast to drive.
It looks like a blast to drive. It looks like a little go-kart, doesn't it? Or half ATV, half go-kart.
Technician down here and moving for her. Oh, check this out.
Yeah, this is a relatively new addition for us. This is a FHCAM vehicle. This is an M3A1 half-track. Everybody, of course, calls it a half-track personnel carrier. One of the interesting things that happened during World War II is the tanks got moving much, much faster, and they would take ground quite quickly. And what you needed was infantry to support that, and they couldn't do it on foot anymore. And so they started building these half tracks that are able to keep up to date and up to speed with the tanks of the time and contain, say, 12 infantrymen that are able to move along with the vehicles.
And of course, it wouldn't be a World War movie without one of those in it.
That's right. Everybody's got one of those. The Dirty Dozen, you've got a pile out of that one. One of the things that was kind of interesting about it is they need it light and they need it fast. So the armor is not super thick on it. It's got about a 1/4 inch armor. You'll get a chance to look at it a little bit later. Of course, you can see that armored box in the back, the armor around the front, even louvers in front of the radiator. To keep those, you can actually close those should you need to. Lots of infantrymen complained about it. They called it the Purple Heart box. They said it was just enough armor to have the bullet go right through one side and then stop and bounce around inside the vehicle.
And of course, provisions for a couple of 50 caliber machine guns on top there as well.
That's right. That's the A1 part of this. The M3 didn't have that cupola at the top. And a lot of times they would get mounts of various types, but this one's set up for being a little bit closer to the front. Another thing you can see in front of Jill there, the windshield, it actually pops down and it's just an armored slits in the windshield. So as you get closer to combat, you can withdraw all that armor or up around you.
Something else that's running out here is that great big box on tracks. What the heck is that?
That's an M5A4. That's a high-speed tractor. I think high speed is a little bit relative with that vehicle. It's the various versions, interestingly enough, it came in convertible. It came with a driver in the center or a driver on the side. There was even a hardtop version. It's a little like a really ugly Corvette. You could get all sorts of options with it. But the running gear for that vehicle is the same as the Stuart tank. We're going to see a Stuart tank later on today. But what they used that for was to tow a cannon, usually a 105 or a 155. Those boxes in the side are to hold ammunition, and of course in with the driver could be much of the gun crew. So this was a much more efficient and fast way, hence the high-speed tractor, to move around a cannon as opposed to a horse.
Okay, the first thing I thought when you said that the side compartments holds ammunition and the shells and such is, wow, that's not a whole lot of armor to prevent somebody from shooting in there, but this is not the kind of machine you would have right on the front.
Right, this is sort of more of a utility vehicle that would be in, if everything goes correctly, towards the back. Artillery, of course, sets up usually behind the spearhead of tanks and infantry. So yeah, they were a little less concerned about buttoning up and having this be a combat vehicle as opposed to a vehicle that shuttles equipment in the background.
Sorry, I'm taking pictures while I'm working here.
That's good. You're a tourist. You're excited.
Yeah, this is so cool.
These vehicles are both part of the Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum. Of course, we used to be the Flying Heritage Museum, but as we started collecting more tanks and guns, we decided, well, we've got to adjust that name so that people know that the vehicles are here. And TankFest has become one of our most popular events in the summertime.
I could tell. Look at the crowd that we have here. This is fantastic. Thank you for your support, everybody. All right, here comes the tractor again. It's, when I think tractor, I think, farm vehicle.
That's right. When they first started talking about there's an M4 and an M5 high-speed tractor, I figured it was going to be some John Deere thing and we were going to go out and plow the fields. One of the biggest ways you can tell is it has no turret.
Yeah, it would basically hide in the forest, in the bushes, whatever, and is very low profile to it, the sloping armor and everything, and just wait for an ambush.
That's right. These were made towards the end of the war, and they're not able to stand toe-to-toe with something like a Sherman or a T-34 and duke it out. They're actually made, it's made from a Czechoslovakian running gear of a light tank, and this, of course, is a new top. And it's quite small, compact, and has that powerful 75 millimeter gun. It's an ambush weapon. It's made to hide in the bushes or a collapsed building, get the first shot off, and then find another advantageous spot to shoot from.
And you notice as well that the gun is offset to the right of the hull as well. Is that because of room?
Yeah, it's because of room, and actually it's quite restrictive on the inside. It only traverses about 11 degrees to the right and about 5 degrees to the left. Hence the ambush. You have to set it up and know enemy tanks are going to be coming down this road, and we're going to aim right at them. So on the inside, there's 4 guys that are in that tank. Most of them are on the left side, and the gun consumes a lot of the right side. It's just a cracker box on the inside. It's quite small.
Cracker box.
Do you recall how thick the armor is on something like this?
You know, not right off the top of my head, and it actually varies. On the side is different than the front. Usually the front and the mantlet, and on tanks, the turret are the thickest, the parts that are exposed the most. Sides and back are less, and if I remember right, and I don't know if I do, it's something like a third of an inch. Of course it's in millimeters because it's German, but not super thick in general. The other thing that's kind of cool about the Hetzer is it has those armored skirts, and those are actually there for a reason. The Soviets like to shoot into that area between the tracks and the top of the body with their high-powered anti-tank rifles, and once they hit armor, they split apart. And so the whole idea of having that skirt come down actually gets the bullet fragmenting before it actually hits the full body of the Hetzer and saves the crew.
So you want it to blow apart before it hits the hull. That makes total sense. And quite a surprise how loud this machine is. And,
it is. You know, of course, mufflers, they cost weight and they cost money. I think we're getting ready for a shot here.
Okay, I'm
those
gonna
of
put
you
my
that
ear
want to
defenders
plug
on.
your ears,
Yeah, close your ears.
It
Here we
might be
go.
about time.
Nice.
That's cool.
Roy, I think I felt that.
I felt
from way back here.
That was an awesome concussion.
All right, kiddos. For this performance, you are now safe. He's going to fire one shot, and he's done it. So no need to plug your ears anymore. We'll try to warn you as we go. So I guess as you wandered into the path of a Hetzer, that's sort of what you saw and felt.
And hopefully that's all you saw and felt, which means they missed.
That's right. Hopefully you were able to scoot out of the way. The Hetzer is one of the vehicles in the collection that has aggressive metal tracks. So as you'll see, as he returns to his parking spot, he's going to drive down the rubber. We tried our best to keep our taxiway, which of course helps us operate airplanes as well, clean and unchipped. And he's actually really moving there.
So how does one get a Hetzer operating certificate to be able to drive that thing?
You know, it's funny. That's part of being the scout. It's going to fire 4 times, so be prepared.
As the air defenders go back on again. Okay, this is looks like a pretty high-speed little machine.
That's right. These were built very early on in the war. They have that little 37 millimeter gun relative to other vehicles. Again, made to support infantry. Basically, vehicles at the time were made to exploit holes in the defenses, and sometimes the infantry and the tank work together to destroy a pillbox or something like that and move along. So it doesn't really have the ability to tank fight in a lot of cases. These were used in North Africa. A lot of them were loaned to the British. as well as a few in Europe, and they were big in the Pacific. Japanese tanks are quite small as well, usually small areas, and Stuarts were used. There's an M3, well, like this one, and an M5, a later version. And both of them were used quite a bit by the Army and the Marines when they were taking islands in the Pacific.
Jump.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you don't really think of tanks in the Pacific theater because there's so much jungle and the soft sand of the beaches and such.
Well, and that they were sort of ready-made for that because they were small and compact and able to go places where bigger, heavier tanks weren't going to be able to go. This tank is owned by Steve Greenberg. He lives down in Oregon, and he's always delighted to bring this Stuart up for display here. He brings it up in a truck and spends the day, and we're always glad to have him because you can tell he has fun, and we have fun watching him.
Well, I've never seen a tank drift around the corner before like this thing is doing. He is definitely having a blast. Look at it go.
Yeah, one of the practical aspects of this is you'll see after each performance, after each of our 3 tank shows, they actually go and they flatten out the gravel in the tank arena because it gets tossed all over the place, it gets rutted, and we have to straighten it back out. So the running gear on this vehicle is the same as the running gear on the M5 high-speed tractor. These guys had twin Cadillac engines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have 2 engines in the back, and they're joined together through the transmission. So double engines on this.
Not like the Hetzer.
Yeah.
That was huge. Yeah.
Happy with that, scratching the back of her car. But
Can you imagine going to your insurance and say, "Yeah, I need the bumper repaired"? Why? Well, a Stuart tank hit it.
That's right. You know, that's hard. They probably don't have boxes on the form to fill out when it comes to that. But she'll be happy. It doesn't. It looks like it's going to buff out. So that's good. Of course, this is the king of all tanks. This is the vehicle that was used by the United States and other nations during the Cold War, late Cold War era. It was replaced with that M1 Abrams.
And I believe some nations are still using this sort of machine.
That's right. Up through the Gulf War, they were still in U.S. service. In fact, there's a famous instance where a Marine unit had M60s during the Gulf War and fought a bunch of Soviet-built Iraqi tanks and did quite well. I think they destroyed 100 of the tanks to the 1 loss of an M60. But yes, they're still used quite a bit in foreign countries. In fact, this one was built in Detroit and served a lot of its time in Jordan, in the Middle East. It was a gift from the Royal Jordanian Tank Museums in FHCAM. It still has that desert tan color. Ooh, boy, just squeezed by there. Yeah. That's perfect.
Good thing she parked it where she did. Smoky machine, what's powering the M60?
It's got a big diesel engine in the back of this vehicle. You know, one of the things that's interesting about the Patton tank, this is part of the Patton family, is they worked to build and improve the machine M46, M47, M48, and this M60. One of the things that was always an issue was the power plants and how far they could go. So this is the improved version of this vehicle, and looks like they may have shut down right there. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's happening there. Interesting looking at the turret. And of course the sloped armor on the turret, and then the small cupola on the top, and the armored glass that you could sort of peer through. You were talking about the lack of visibility in a lot of tanks, and there's a great example.
That's right, exactly. That's a perfect example. All of those slots to be able to see all around. That's the commander's area. Sloped was another big thing. One of the things you don't see in the Stuart or the Sherman tank is a lot of sloped armor, which is good for a lot of reasons. If you can slope the armor, you actually sort of rob some additional thickness because whatever's hitting it is hitting it at an angle. And then if it's angled, there's a lot more of a chance that a weapon or shell is going to bounce off. You take something like the Hetzer, it's all trapezoidal and it's all angles, whereas the Sherman is a lot of straight up and down vertical. Dusty and Hector are driving our machine today, and we'll see what they've got in store for us. This one doesn't fire, so you don't have to worry about covering your ears.
Oh, I can imagine what kind of boom that thing would